this is Dr. Von Made. We're going to start working on some of the props for the scenery for the dinosaur scenes. Now right now I'm going to be working on the Jurassic scene, so we're going to start off with something called a cycad. So right now what we're going to do is I'm not going to be making the leaves just yet, I'm going to be making the base. The cycad is basically a kind of a what they call a tall type fern type plant. You'll start with just kind of a basic shape like so. And what you're going to do is you're going to want to kind of do this kind of a jaggy thing going on here, and kind of pry it out just a little bit, and kind of do that with it. See how I'm kind of, hopefully you can see it. I'm trying to camera at a different angle today. But it's basically going to be kind of like this. It's not the same as making the dinosaurs because plants they're not as dynamic, so therefore you're not going to have as much going on with them. Now, unless you're dealing with carnivorous plants, and we're not. So, even though you have to wonder, you guys ever think there might have been carnivorous plants during the age of dinosaurs? I mean, think about it. They probably, you have big animals, you have to wonder, do you think that if there were carnivorous plants, do you think they were doing anything more than eating insects, maybe? So, see how we're doing this. This is a cycad. We're going to do the same thing right here. And we're going to cut it down like that and pry it out just a little bit. And cut it around like so. Now as far as painting it goes, what we're going to do is we're going to paint it black. Show you what our color scheme is going to be, because this isn't going to dry till I'm ready for it to anyway. What we're going to do is we're going to go over it with an overcoat of black. That's going to get all the colors into the coloring. Then we're going to go with a little bit of, well, that's spice berry, not exactly what I was looking for. Ah, that is right here. A little bit of melted chocolate, and then I'll add a little bit of white to it to kind of give it a little bit of an overcast and kind of give it a slightly lighter than super dark brown coloring to it. And that's going to make our cycads. So it's going to be kind of a low bush. These things actually do live today, even though I've never had much luck gardening with them. During the Jurassic, you would have had a lot of plants like ginkgo, what they call a monkey puzzle tree, I believe. And you would have had these cycads, and you also would have had horsetails, club moss. Things you wouldn't have had would have been like grass. Grass didn't come around until the Cenozoic. At least that's what the fossil records tell us. Conifers would have been plentiful. They find conifers all the time. So you would have had some really strange looking forests during the Mesozoic. Think about it. You wouldn't have had flowering plants till the Cretaceous. No grasses of any sort, which means no bamboo. No grass, no bamboo. I don't know whether banana trees or anything like that would have been there, or for any fruit we would have recognized. And I don't know what plants went extinct at the end of the Mesozoic. But this is going to be a cycad, and it's basically kind of a ferny type plant. There'll be a hole I'm going to put right up here on top, and what that's for is so I can put my leaves in once it dries. Once I get it done, I'm going to put it in the oven. So basically this is, the first step towards making scenery for this scene. So that's kind of how it's done. Kind of gives kind of a rough texture all the way around, like leaves kind of grew up and then died. It's kind of the way that I'm trying to aim for with this. Now, I'm not sure. I've always heard them talking about something called a scale tree, but I'm not real sure that those were contemporary or just the result of Hollywood or somebody taking some Charles R. Knight paintings too far. But you can see how I'm doing this with the plants. You can have a little irregularity, but not very much. plants are a lot more structured than animals, if you'll believe that. Because, like I said, with animals being dynamic, you're looking at a little bit of irregularity no matter what you do. But, you can see what I'm doing here. Just kind of all the way around. I'm going to bake this in the oven. This is Sculpey. You've seen me doing it before. It's what the dinosaurs themselves were made of. So, kind of like that all the way up. And you can see what I'm doing. And I'll probably make two or three of these. But I know I'm going to be making one for sure. Now, if you make it a little bit taller, you can also make a, what do they call that? It's another type of cycad. It's a slightly taller one. But I'm going to do that for the cycads. So if you like what you're seeing, and this is only the start, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will be back with you as soon as I get this thing baked. And see you around. Well, this is Dr. Von Mad, and we are back. I'm about to paint this cycad. Like I said, we're going to go with black as a base color. To show you how we're going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to take this right here, the little flat kind of a chisel brush. We're going to wipe it off on over here. Get some of this extra liquid off of it. And grab some black paint. Now this thing is still hot from the oven, so see how we're kind of glazing it out here. Get enough black paint on it to see if we can get this thing done up. I may end up having to get some paint up here on the sides here. There we go. I got enough on it that time. See, basically, you're going to want to try to get all that into those little pine cone looking things. But yeah, basically what we're going to do is we're going to paint this, and then in the morning or sometime tomorrow night, remember I got surgery Friday, operating on my leg. So everybody would be wishing me well on that. See, we're going to paint the black coat on it. Now that's almost... The thing is, I didn't put a complete black coat on it, just kind of turned it a dark brown. That is almost good enough as it is. We may go with that. Now, in just a minute here, we're going to fire up the glue gun, and I'm going to show you what we got going here. Let me show you what we got going here while I'm talking to you and getting this glue gun going here. It's going to be our next step right here. This is the glue gun. We got our bases right here, and we're going to be going with a nice gray with kind of a green overcast to it. We're going to glue this in place here, and then the next video will probably be tomorrow, and I'll show you where we're going to be putting everything. Oh! See, we got our steg. I'm going to set him kind of maybe like this right here. And then you'll have your cycad. You'll have a couple. Build a few more of these. Build quite a few more, and we're gonna have a few cycads here and there. Kind of put some brush and some rocks around him. So that's what we got going. So let me get this glue gun fired up, and I'll show you exactly where everything's gonna go. While that's going on, I'm gonna work on building another tree. And while we're waiting for the glue gun to fire up, we'll set this door inside and I'll start working on another plant. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to get some more of the Sculpey. Put the rest of this back in its bag. Don't think it'll dry out, but I don't want to take any chances. This stuff's a little more expensive than the Marblex I normally use. Alright. Basically we got a little too much right there, so I'm going to cut this back a little bit. Now, you're going to want to do the same thing with that you did with this right here. I need to get rid of the impression of my ring on this. But there you are. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pull that into a couple of little smaller branches, because I'm going to make a top, like a tree top to it or something similar. And then we'll paint this one up too. Meanwhile, I'm going to make another cycad because we're going to need more than one. So, there you are. Let's flatten this dude out. Put this dude back in place here. First thing we're going to do is drill out the top because we're going to put some leaves in. Now, I'll cut this down into place and peel it. Remember how we did it last time? We're going to do the same thing on this and on this tree over here. We're probably going to have to add a couple more little organisms in there because you know yourself, it's an ancient forest or a prehistoric forest. There's going to be more than one thing. I may have to see about making like a pterodactyl or something. Would you guys like to see that? And if it comes out a little bit spiky, that'll be okay too. I mean, it's a prehistoric plant, and I'm sure that some of these probably were spiky. We'll paint that up here in a minute. Now we're going to drill out the top of this here. That's going to be for some leaves. Now, what we're going to do on the scale tree here is we're going to kind of score it like follows here. Kind of put like scales on it. And let's flatten this bottom out of it and make kind of a base because she would have had roots and things sticking out. So we're going to try and make it a little bit rooty looking back here. Now, see, it's going to set up like that. So let's make some scoring on it. One of these days I'll have to do a video about how I used to make the snake video, make sculptures of snakes. I used to make really good ones. Let's see. Other plants that would have been in this area would have been like ginkgos and club mosses and probably other things that we don't even know about because they've only hit just the very tip of the fossil record. You see, and that's going to kind of sit up like that. So I will go out and bake these in a minute, and let's check and see if our glue gun's ready. It ought to be. So let's put the first item in place. We're going to glue our cycad right there. Now, for the leaves on the cycad, you're going to need a piece of green felt. I'll show you how we're going to do that now. See, in addition, if you didn't want to go through the trouble of making a stegosaur, you could have you probably used something like that if you bothered to repaint it. But, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut about 6 of these. kind of cut them into the shape of sort of like green crescents. You're not wanting to put a whole lot of tremendous detail. You do want a little bit of detail, but you don't have to go just crazy down to the veins on the leaves unless you just really have a lot of time on your hands. Alright, let's see if we can cut some more here. Alright, now, here's how we're going to make these leaves now. Remember how I had us cut that little hole in the top of the cycad? Watch this. Just a dab of hot glue in the top of it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the point of my sculpting tool, kind of poke it in there. Now, if it falls down a little bit, that's alright. We're going to pull some of that off and some of this off. I'm going to poke this down in there too. I'm going to have to add a little bit more glue as we go. But the idea is that you can see what we're doing here. Put that right there. Now, if you don't have a tool like I've got, you could, in theory, go with a bamboo skewer, which is a good idea if you don't have one, because you can use it. See how it's already starting to kind of get this kind of a jungle, you know, prehistoric jungle plant type appearance going on already. Let's see if you can see it. I'll add one more and then we're going to go and get these others baked here. Now, pull off these stringers. Alright, we've got one last leaf. And see, your plant's already starting to come together. Pull off these extra strings. Alright. And there you are. See if I can get a wee bit of. See now how this is coming along. Now, that's going to look very nice. You know, these plants are kind of going off. These leaves are kind of going off, doing their own thing every which way. So. Then we'll have this one here, it's painted, it'll be kind of growing in close in right here, and then we'll have this back behind him on this side. So, this is Dr. Von Mad. If you like what you're seeing, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, we'll be glad to have you. Hit the bell to get notified, and we'll be back with some more of this, and we'll see you guys on the flip side. Well, this is Dr. Von Mad. We're back, we're about to paint the branches, and I got the scale tree here. And I've got this little spiky looking cycad here with the hole cut in the top of it. We'll be doing these up and gluing them in place. So what we're going to do now is, the first thing we're going to do is the black paint. The black paint back. Oh, here it is. Put it way over here. I'm grabbing my brushes, bring them down. Guys, wish me luck. I'm going to be going in for surgery in the morning. So, need all the prayers and well wishes I can get. Because this is not going to be fun, I can tell you. I can tell you right now, this is not going to be fun. Now, this, on the other hand, is going to be good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start with a scale tree, because I'm going to do something a little bit different with it. We're going to go with a black overcoat. Like, right here, Apple Barrel Black. That's the paint that I tend to use. The official paint of Catapult Time. No. Yeah. See, I'm just going to kind of go over it with a black paint, and it's going to get into all those little scales and stuff, hopefully. So we're going to make a very small scale tree. Now, I don't know the official name of it, but I've seen it in a lot of reconstructions, so we're going to see if we can get it to do its thing here. Let me try to get some paint over here. There we go. Try not to get too much paint, but we do need a little bit. And See how it's just kind of painting it. Now what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to go over it with a coat of brown, and then I'm going to go over it with a dry brush in gray over the top of it finally, kind of a light gray to kind of make the bark on it. You don't have to get too fancy down with it. What it's going to do is it's going to sit like that. Now, the other thing is the cycad. Now, let's paint our cycad. I'll make a couple of these little spiky looking plants here. So I'm sure they're in the cycadiforms, I believe was the clay that they were in. And we're going to make up the cycads. Honestly, these brown pretty good in the oven when you bake them, so these will actually, they don't require a whole lot of extra paint work done. Oh. Alrighty. I'll go over the top of it now and kind of get it all in there. And there we go. Now, we're going to let that sit for a little while. And that will be it for right now. We will come back in a little bit and let this dry, and then we'll come back and do some more. Alright, now we're going to be, while I'm waiting for the plants to dry, I'm going to work a little bit on rocks. Now, for the rocks, we're going to go with some, grab our palette over here. Put these rocks to one side. I grabbed these out of my driveway. We'll use my palette here. Set this down. We'll get some of this black paint in here. It's kind of thin, so got to be careful. And we'll grab a bit of white. Put that in there. And a pinch of melted chocolate. Just a little hint of this chocolate paint. Just a little bit, because I'm kind of wanting to kind of a, and I'll probably dry brush a little green over the top of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our, again, we're going to grab this big chisel brush here, because I like it when I'm doing like an overcoat of anything. Get some of this water off of it. Mix our coloring up. It should make a fairly convincing kind of a grayish brown color, which would be perfect for the rocks. There we go. See, kind of just this oatmeal sort of grayish brown. It's not a pretty color. Huh. Before I go any further with this one, it's a fairly common thing, but take a look. Don't know if you can see it. There's a little shell fossil right here. Can you see that? Right there. See if I can get it where you can see it without getting too close in there and blurring it out or pixelating it. Well, like I said, it's a fairly common fossil, so we're going to go ahead and paint over it and kind of, like I said, these are fairly common. This stuff was just pulled out of my driveway, so really its paleontological value would be somewhat suspect. Don't have to paint it on the bottom because we're going to glue it in place. But I'll go ahead and fire up this hot glue gun while I'm waiting here, while I'm doing this. I'll go ahead and get the glue gun going. I'll go ahead and place my rocks where I'm wanting them. So we're going to put one right there. Let's see where I'm placing it. Trying to get the spider webs off here. See, we're going to place one right there. Now we're going to paint another one. We got this one right here. We're going to paint it the same way. Kind of make like the rocks are all from the same formation here. These are basically gravel, so painting them to look like something besides gravel. These are sedimentary rocks that basically was from where this area was underwater during most of the Earth's history. We're going to kind of jink them together best as I can here. Kind of make like a emblem here. Now, go with a little tiny one, this little flat rock here. Just kind of go over it like so. And we're going to glue it into place. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of something here. There we go. We'll put a little bit more under it, kind of secure it now. Let's go with the next one. Another bit of chert gravel, I think is what they call this. But we're going to paint this, and I'll probably dry brush a little green over the top. Kind of make it look all mossy and, you know, overgrown a little bit with lichen or something. Alright. So we're just going to put like... I may have to spin this a little bit. Let's see if I can get a... Okay, it's actually holding pretty decent. And we'll put a little more stuff in there. Now, got a couple of more little pebbles, and I'm going to isolate them from the other two so it looks like kind of the... So it's not looking like it's just laid there. So I'm not going to paint the flat side because that's where it's going to be glued at. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to place one right over here. We got one more little pebble. We didn't know it's another fossil. See a little shell right there? There's like another bit of shell right next to it. You gotta remember this was a sea, these came off of a seabed, so it's kind of interesting in itself that we're doing dinosaurs and the first thing that pops up is fossils, which is kind of cool in and of itself. You can actually still see the fossils through some of this. I'm gonna glue this dude right here. See. Now I need to find myself a cloth or something. Tell you what, I will be back in a few minutes. Alright, this is Dr. Von Mad. We're back. We're about to start painting the next phase of the plants here. The glue on these dried fairly quickly. Well, mostly. That scale tree's still a little damp. This one here I think will be alright. It's still a little bit wet in places, but it'll be fine. Alright, let me wash this kind of a slate gray stuff off of this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the overcoat. I'm going to go an overcoat of it. Since I have it on hand, I'm going to go ahead and use some of it. Then I'll go over it with some brown. Kind of a light bit of a lighter brown to kind of give it a little bit of texture difference from the cycad we painted earlier. Give it a little bit of color difference. And on this one we're going to do the same thing. We'll give it just a bit of a dry brush coat because this should start bringing out color. Start popping the texture is what we're looking for here. Now, so that's where we're at right now with it, and we'll be back with you in a little bit. Well, this is Dr. Von Mad, and we're back again. I'm going to be putting in some... I've got an idea of using this popsicle stick. Now, where's my scissors? And I'll show you what we're going to do with this, because it looks like wood now, but we're going to paint it about the same shade of gray as these rocks to kind of make it look like it would all be part of the same thing, make these look like rock formations. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this into kind of random sort of random shapes. So we're going to try to get, because I want them almost broke off, you know. Kind of just split them off here. So we just kind of break these things off. I want them to be flat, but I don't want them to be like symmetrical, you know. See, so we're going to break them off, kind of make it look a little bit jaggedy. gonna be, it'll be covered up. It's just mostly to kind of put the kind of a hint around the water's edge. I'm gonna put a bit of a, maybe a water formation right here. So it's just kind of laying together here. Let's see. I'll shear this off here. Just kind of break it off. I want to just, if I had a jigsaw, this would be a lot easier. But we're going to try to do it this way. So we'll be putting like some toothpicks in the shape of horsetails and what all. I just need some really odd shaped bits. See, and this kind of have this like this little protuberance coming out from right here to make kind of like the water's edge. Now again, we're going to do it here with this. I've got these little pieces I can put in like right in there to kind of make it look like water. And then the rest of this will be kind of just kind of slated in pretty well, or covered in probably covered in vegetation, honestly. But it's going to be roughly around there. So what I'm wanting to do is kind of just get some odd shaped bits to kind of make it look a little less like a popsicle stick. So you just kind of break it off and well, that was a little more. That's still too straight. Let's see what we can do with that. Now that's perfect. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to lay these around like right here. Kind of glue those together, and we're going to have vegetation all along in here so we won't be able to see the individual weld lines of all this. And hopefully, just hopefully, fingers crossed, this will start to look like a water's edge, and I'll be able to put the water in, start gluing this stuff into place. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take our brush back over here and paint up the slates that I've got here, the fall slates for the water's edge. So I'm going to grab this brush this time. It was just the first brush I grabbed here. And kind of go over it like this to make it look like rocks. Now if you watched my other diorama video where we did like the little mini dioramas, we saw something similar we did with another stegosaur. As you guys probably guessed by now, I love working with Stegosaurus. See, now we're going to lay this over here, and I've got the hot glue gun going because we're going to glue these in place. Because like I said, there's going to be a lot of vegetation and stuff in there because, well, we're in the Jurassic, it's going to happen. Now, we got a couple of other little scrawny bits here, stuff like this right here. Because I'm wanting to have just a lot of odd-sized bits and pieces that we're going to kind of glue together and kind of make a slate work to make this work. Now, got the glue gun handy. So what we're going to do now is we've got some metallic periwinkle here. Now what we're going to do with it, so we'll make the water's edge with it. It's like a metallic blue. I figure it won't be exactly perfect, but it will be close. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this here metallic blue. We'll drizzle a little bit of it out here, and we're going to add to that a little navy blue, and a little Tuscan teal, just a hint. We're going to try our hand at doing water. I have never actually attempted to model water, so we're going to try this and see what we get. Now, I'm figuring we want to lay this on pretty thick because we're going to want like the ripple effect and what all in the water. So, and we accidentally got a little bit of the gray in there, which is alright. We're dealing with mud here. Alright, so here's how we're going to do this. Now, let's move our palette to one side, bring our base up to the 4 here, and you'll see what we're doing. Put this palette back here out of your way. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to lay this on heavy. So I'm just kind of flattening out which way we're going to go now. Kind of just getting the basics in place here. Kind of just going to go along with the way you want the water to flow, because it's going to look like that when you get it done. Since I'm laying this liquid on pretty thick. Now, it don't matter if I overlap just a hair. Let's put this over here for just a second while we'll go ahead and glue my slates into place. Alright, hang on. I got a little bit of open spot on it. There we go. Now, thing is, that's going to be an open place on it. We're going to glue that right in right here. See how that worked? Now, glue this piece here. So you got holes right there, and that's where vegetation's going to be at. You know, horsetails and cattails and all this stuff that we normally associate with this sort of thing. I'm going to lay this little thing right here to make kind of a... Ow! Got my finger with a bit of the glue, guys. Got to be careful. Let's see. We're going to be laying some of this. Right in here to kind of produce a bit of a protuberance. I may have to end up shearing off part of this around this edge here. Got some sticking up over the side, but that's alright. There we go. Now it just becomes a matter of painting it in, painting around it, and getting all the rest of these rocks into place. Now, see, we're going to have some vegetation right in here so we can have our steg coming down to the water's edge to drink. See, that's going to look very nice when we're done. So, we're going to add a little more of this water into place now. Now that we've got the border of the water, and the water's just kind of go off screen here. We are going to kind of get in underneath here and underneath here, and remember, you can always touch it up if you happen to get a little bit over. See, right now I've got a bit of a stringer from this hot glue, and that's going to be a nuisance. There we go. See, just kind of circle it in right here, because we're going to lay all this paint into this area, because I want it to look like water, so we're going to lay this paint on pretty thick. Now, you could have used hot glue when you were doing this. I'm just going to follow the contours. I want all this, every bit of that paint's going to go on here to kind of lacquer this up. Now, see how it's, I want it to be seriously where it looks like it's actually, you know, lapping up against the rocks on the shoreline. I want this paint to be fairly thick right in here. It's got to look like water, at least close as you can get to that. Like I said, you can touch it up with a brush, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of make it come along the water's edge right in here. So you looks like he's on the edge of a lake. And bring my homemade palette over here and get myself off this knee. It's driving me nuts. Now, alright, here's a question, guys. Do you think we ought to have any other creatures in this picture? If you do, leave a comment and let us know what you think ought to be in this thing. Remember, we're in the Cretaceous, or in the Jurassic North America. So there are going to be certain things that are not going to be here yet. Snakes, for example, are not going to be here. You might have lizards. We might even have crocodiles. See that little hole right there? I'm going to put something in there. I'll put maybe like a stand of reeds or something, or rushes, horsetails maybe. You know, kind of. See, I'm just trying to get like ripples here. See how that's working out? The battery goes dead and the camera shuts off, I will get you a new battery and I'll bring you up to speed. But right now, I'm just kind of putting a little bit of, kind of making it, you know, because this is going to take a while to dry. And I figure I'll probably be out of pocket tomorrow, won't be able to do much of anything. So I'm going to try to make hay, as they say, while the sun shines. And get as much done on this as I can today. So I'm wanting to move on. I've got other projects I'm wanting to bring in, and I think you guys will appreciate those when I bring them in. I've just been kind of stuck on this one for a while because it's kind of a time-consuming one. You can't really rush art. This is not like building toys or whatever. You know, you're trying to do something, you're wanting to put a lot of, I want to put a lot of extra work and labor into it. So we're going to let this dry like this. This is going to take a few days, I suspect, which is the reason I did it right now. Alrighty. There we are. Let's see, now we'll have our stag coming up here to the water's edge. Like so. And he'll have him up against the rocks like this, and he'll have some vegetation around him in here and all this. So let's see how our plants are going while I'm letting the water dry over here. Try to keep this away from the other base. I don't want to cross-contaminate. Alright. Let's bring our gray back over here. We're going to hit up our tree again. Add a little more white into this, because we're going to dry brush now. I'll probably dry brush again over this now. Let me get my brush here and clean off the brush, and we'll do this again. I got an old shirt on, so. Alright, now lighten up the gray, get it a little bit lighter, and kind of dry brush some of this off till we're not getting hardly anything on it. And we'll use this piece of old thing right here to kind of do this with, because you can see it's a lighter gray than what we had going. So we're going to go ahead and dry brush our scale tree. Then we'll glue this dude into place, and we'll start thinking about leaves. on him, and I'll be working on some low slung type vegetation too. Just a pinch of this, dry brush it off, and come along with it here. There we go. And up in here, like I said, we're going to put branches and leaves up here. Now, go ahead and place our tree. So, to kind of get an idea of what we're doing, we're going to move our steg into place where I'm wanting him, so I'll get an idea of what goes where. What do you think, guys? Here? Here, maybe? I like it right there. We'll go with right there on the water's edge. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue our tree right in here. Now we're going to let that dry a minute. Move this over while I work on the other cycad. The other cycad, we're going to go with a dry brush of brown over the top of it to kind of just basically barely even a wash. I don't want it to be very heavy. Move my steg in case any stray paint, I don't want it getting sloshed. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to get all this water off of it. And we're going to grab a pinch of this brown paint. We're going to kind of do this with it. It's kind of just, I don't want it a thick wash, I just want it a very, very thin kind of a, see how we're doing here? It's kind of a patchy sort of grayish brown. And I'll probably end up having to go over this one more time. Maybe not. I wanted it to be a slightly lighter color than the other cycad. Alrighty, that should do it. Now we're going to glue it into place. We're going to let that dry, and I will get back with you guys later after we get it on here. I got to patch up these rocks and things. Now let's get our steg back over here so we can see what we got going on with it. Alright. Kind of set him right in here. We're just going to have this rock right here, so we're going to set this other plant maybe right here. What do you think? I think right there looks good. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of that right here. Get rid of the stringer. And unplug the glue gun, because we're not quite ready to place the guest of honor here yet. But you can start to see where this is coming together. See if I can get a light down here. Let's see a little better here. Push him out into the light just a hair, and hopefully, just hopefully, you'll be able to see him. Or I can do this. See if I can get an angle from over here now, where you can get a good overview of what we're doing. So guys, if you like what you're seeing, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll be back with you on the flip side.